Hello and welcome back to another episode of Awaken, Heal and Transform with your host, me, Francesca Raffa. So, I really wanted to just share my utmost gratitude for everyone that is part of my journey, following me along my journey, and also finding the content that I provide to you inspiring, helpful, and in some way or another awakening, healing, and transforming you, because that is truly what I aim to do, and my purpose in reconnecting humanity into a state of peace, love, and harmony. So, today I am welcoming a beautiful lady. Her name is Maria, and she reached out to me via Instagram, having enjoyed the content that I provide to you as my listeners. And having looked at what Maria does, I just thought she would be perfect to invite up onto the podcast. So, Maria is a transformational life coach, and through her own journey, she uses her experience in order to help other women to see their own worth, to be able to become unleashed. So she calls herself the heart guide, as she guides women into living life from the heart to unleash the fullest expression of who they are out into the world. So today, we're going to find out a lot more about Maria and her journey and what led her to do what she's doing today. But we're also going to highlight the particular topic around self-worth and being able to say no, the sacred no, and how when we trust in being able to say no, we are able to attract in what it is that we truly desire, and not just settle for what is maybe ticking one box out of the five. So let's welcome the beautiful Maria. Hi, Maria. Thank you so much for joining the Awaken, Heal and Transform podcast today. I am so excited to have you here after our chat that we had a couple of weeks ago. It's so exciting getting to know you. So thank you for your time. And yeah, I really just want to open this up to you. I mean, we've had a bit of a conversation. I've been following you through your Instagram, which is how we connected, and you calling yourself the heart guide. Like, tell me a little bit more about this and what it is that you do, and also your journey that's led you into where you are today.
Thank you, Francesca. I'm so happy to be here as well. And my journey to getting to where I am was a very unexpected one. And I didn't think I would end up where I am today, owning the title Heart Guide. But I would love to explain what that even means and how I got here. So, how I explain what being a heart guide is and the work that I do is really helping others connect in with the truth of their hearts and the truths of their beings in all aspects of their lives, in discovering who they truly are, what it is that they desire out of life that's authentically aligned with who they are, and then having the awareness and the courage and giving themselves permission to follow the callings of their hearts and of their truth, and doing that in their fullest power and worth. So that is the work that I do. That is my purpose in life, and I'm very grateful to have arrived here. But it wasn't always that way. I wasn't always tapped into that. So I created a life for myself that is a very stereotypical dream life. And I'm calling it stereotypical because it's the one that we are often told is the right one to create, and that it will bring you happiness and joy. So I created a life where I was working a 6-figure corporate job, living out my dream marketing career, traveling the world. I was married to a man that checked all the boxes and had everything that I desired on the external. It very much felt like the materialistic was super important to me. And if I had the big house and the husband and the beautiful, amazing job that I could brag about, that would make me feel worthy, that would make me feel happy and fulfilled. And there was one missing piece that I felt was needed in order for me to fully feel fulfilled in my life, and that was to have a child. I thought that was the final piece, right? That's the dream, to create the family.
Yeah.
And I did eventually get pregnant with my partner, and a couple months in, I miscarried, and my life felt like it had completely fallen apart. I didn't understand how the one thing that I had dreamed of the most, I had finally gotten, and then it had been taken away, and I didn't understand that. And I went into a very dark place. And I actually ended up going to see a psychic intuitive who's incredible. And she had told me that what I had experienced, this loss of this child, was because my time, it wasn't my time yet, and that I had more to do in this world. And that gave me some level of hope. And I said, okay, well, what is that? And then the universe, as it does when you ask the question, starts bringing things your way. And I went to my first moon circle and felt like I was at home. I ended up doing some really deep work with my soul therapist and deeply understanding who I was, my connection with spirit, became certified as a Reiki master, started working with people in that way. And all of that slowly started to reveal that who I truly was and what I was here to do was very different than what society and my family had told me was the right thing. So going through all that, I ended up completely changing my life. I walked away from my corporate career. I left my marriage. I ended up moving across the country to a small town in the mountains where I didn't know anybody, also that I could live fully in my purpose and my work. So that's my journey. And now I'm blessed enough to be able to help others do the same for themselves. And every day is a journey. Every day is a gift. It comes with its own challenges, but I know I'm exactly where I'm meant to be right now. And that feels incredible.
Wow, I just love your story so much, because it's one that I hear, time and time again, that we are looking for our lives externally from outside of ourselves, filling up all of those things, ticking all those boxes that we're told that we need to tick, getting it done, going forward, doing, forgetting to be. And, from what happened to you, your blessing and a curse, of course, in so many ways with the miscarriage, but it allowed you to truly be. You had to stop, and that was the sign for you, that universal sign of. And again, time and time again, I hear these stories of something has to come crashing down in the external world to really get you to truly go within. I mean, not all the time, but a lot of the time that is the case. And what I loved on what you just touched on there was you had to rediscover your self-worth. So tell us a little bit about that journey and how that looked like.
Yes, thank you. So a lot of the inner work that I did was going back to my childhood, as well as connecting with my inner child and really understanding a lot of the conditioning and the programming that happened around me. So what were the things that I was shown, taught, told about myself that I took on as truth? And as I did that work, I started to really see and realize that a lot of my beliefs about myself, a lot of my insecurities were my parents' projections of their own stuff onto me. And I realized that I had created this persona, this way of existing that would make other people love me and accept me, but it wasn't who I truly was. So I never really fully felt the love. I didn't really feel the validation, and I didn't feel worthy because I was living, I always say it, as a false life in some ways. I wasn't being fully authentic because that felt not even, it didn't even feel accessible. It felt scary. So when it came to connecting in with my actual worth, it was allowing myself to be uncomfortable in my own truth. And I remember doing something that I thought that I would never do. And to some of you, it might seem like a big deal, maybe to some of you others. To me, it was a huge deal. I basically started wearing makeup when I was 13 years old and was wearing makeup every day, even if it was just a little bit of eyeshadow on my eyes. So into my late 20s and early 30s, I was very much full on wearing makeup to my corporate job, to my life and so forth. And I remember there being this challenge at work. I don't know if you're familiar with like Movember,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
yeah, so men grow out their mustaches for a cause. Well, there was something for women. I can't remember the cause exactly, but it was no makeup for the month of
Right.
November. And I remember when this idea was introduced at work, my jaw dropped, my heart dropped, not my heart, my belly dropped. And I said, like, F it, I'm going to do this. This is so uncomfortable, but I'm going to go into work without my face on. And it felt so vulnerable. And I did this for a month straight. I didn't wear makeup anywhere that I went, and allowed people to see me. And that was very much kind of like the first, or one of the first layers of the onion being peeled back to show who I truly was, because I could no longer hide behind this put together, in my eyes, this put together pretty face, which is how I had garnered a lot of validation in the earlier parts of my life. So now I was almost feeling like bare and exposed. So that was one of the things that I did. But then it consistently started showing up with, okay, well, now I'm going to be speaking about my spiritual work at my job, not necessarily promoting that this is what I do, but talking about my connection to spirit and meditation and all of these other things, and allowing people to see those aspects of myself. And then it was, okay, now starting to share more vulnerably about the really tough things that I've gone through in my life and letting people witness that, or just allowing my emotions in whatever form they're in to be shown and to be expressed. So it was baby steps. It was moment by moment. It was like taking a look at, how am I living in my life that feels safe, that feels like an expectation, that feels like people will love me for it? And does that feel true to me? Does that feel like who I actually am? And it's like, okay, if it doesn't, what's the opposite of that? And can I step into that and welcome that, and then allow myself to receive whatever comes? Because our minds say, people will judge you, people will reject you, you'll end up being alone. And then once you do it, you realize that's not true. I'm at a point now in my life where if I lose people, it hurts, but I don't take it personally, because I know they're just not aligned with me. And if they don't like who I actually am, then it's not worth them existing in my circle. Because then I'll never feel good enough in their eyes.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot more to that story, because it's been several years of a journey. But those were some of the kind of initial things that I had done.
It's really, it really sparked some sort of things in me that I never really thought about, but like the face of makeup, like, you know, I used to do the exact same thing, and I'm sure so many of us did. When we are being so inauthentic, it almost made us be that inauthentic self even more authentically to the mask by putting on that face, because it was like, oh, I'm not me anymore. So it was still that protector, wasn't it? It was that real deep protector by completely creating another persona through the makeup and through the clothes. I mean, the clothes I used to wear in corporate, I would never have worn that growing up or as a child or in my times of true authenticity before I really understood what society expected of me or what I had to become or what I thought I had to become. So it's so interesting. And I love how you mentioned that, because I hadn't even thought about that before. But I also love the fact that you said that it was all baby steps and all a process. And you can now truly trust yourself enough to know that if people fall away from your life, that it is not to do with you. And actually, so be it, because you wouldn't want people that are going to cause a misalignment to you or cause a bit of friction, to your energy. And that kind of leads me on to the topic around the sacred no. So I know this is something that you were talking about with me, and we wanted to discuss today, because I love this topic, and I find through conversations I have and through my own experience as well, saying no is very, very difficult. And I think, again, we are conditioned to you have to accept what's been given to you, because if that's coming to you, then if you don't say yes, then you're not going to have not that opportunity again, or you're turning down opportunities. Why would you do that? And all that kind of stuff that we're getting told, that it's again the doing, so we just say yes, and it makes things very difficult to say no. And even when it's right there on the tip of your tongue and you're like, no, I don't want to do that. But then yes comes out. Like how many times I've done that, so many times. I'm like, I'm about to say no, and then suddenly my throat suddenly closes up and a yes comes out, and it's the most frustratingest feeling. And the only person you're frustrated with is it yourself. So I would love to hear your advice around embodying the sacred no, and being able to do that in a way that is respectful and truthful and authentic to you and to the other person.
Yes, this whole aspect of saying no, especially for women, also just to add on to the conditioning, we are taught to be a good girl, to not ruffle feathers, to be likable. And often that looks like saying yes or people pleasing or whatever it might be. Also, depending on your upbringing and the environment that you were in as a child, there's a good chance that you would get rewarded for when you went with the flow, said yes to what your parents wanted, and when you said no and didn't want to eat the broccoli on the plate or didn't want to go hug that uncle or whatever it might be, that you would get scolded or you would be forced to do it anyways. So we get programmed and conditioned to say yes to things that make us uncomfortable, even when our body communicates to us no. And how that can feel in your body obviously can vary by person, but often it feels like some level of compression or tightness. Imagine you not feeling safe and then your body responding in a way. So when it comes to your no, it's actually really reframing your relationship with your no. Because if you are programmed, and most likely are, that when you say no, you are being bad, or that you're going to lose love, or that you're going to hurt someone or disappoint someone, then every time you say no, that's the story that's going to come up in your head. It doesn't matter the situation.
And then the guilt.
And then the guilt and the shame, and then probably even more people pleasing comes out of that. And next thing you know, you're officiating the wedding for someone you don't even like. And I'm just bringing up this because this literally has happened, or a client of mine was almost happening to her. Okay. So what your no does is, first of all, it allows people and the universe to show you how you deserve to be treated,
Mm.
how and what you are going to allow into your life, what is worthy of your energy and what is not. So what it actually does, it aligns you even more so on a path that is true to you, and it helps everyone around you to
Mm.
create that. Because you saying yes to something that actually feels like a no in your system is, it's going to throw you off. It's not going to feel fully authentic to the people that you're with on some level, even if it's not conscious. And it's not going to create what you desire, which is, I'm guessing, a life of living free and expressed and fulfilled. So it really is a way to realign things. And a great way to practice saying your no is, there's kind of a middle step that you can take first. So instead of the options only being yes or no, say an opportunity presents itself or someone asks you to do something, you have every right to say, I don't know right now. I'm going to feel into it. And I'll get back to you by this time or this date. Now, that's beautiful, because now you can actually step away from this triggering experience where your tendency is to go to the yes, and sit back and go into your body, close your eyes, visualize yourself saying yes, and notice how that feels. Or visualize yourself going through with that experience, with that yes, whatever that creates, and see how that feels in your body. If that feels like a compression, like a closure, yucky or gross in some way, then that's a cue that your body is giving you that that's not the right way to go. You're taking your brain fully out of the mix. That's the point.
Yeah.
Because your brain is mainly ruled by your ego, and your ego is wrapped up in the conditioning of your past and trying to keep you as a safe little child. And, you know, it's doing its thing, but it's not helping you when it comes to making aligned decisions.
Yeah.
But if you close your eyes and you spend time with that decision, and then you feel into what the no would feel like, and not taking up that opportunity, see what comes up. And it doesn't mean that you're going to feel the no might not even feel freeing. Maybe it does. If it does, then that's a very big sign. Maybe instead what comes up are fears, right? Maybe your brain does pop in and say, oh my gosh, but if you don't take this opportunity, what if another one doesn't come its way? Or if you say no to this date, like maybe he's actually not that bad. Like maybe he'll be better once you're together sitting in front of one another, or whatever it might be. And if you have to start justifying your yes and convince yourself to do it, that is also a sign that it is a no. And it's okay for you to go and say no, and then notice the guilt that comes up, notice the things that come up. Just be with those feelings. Allow them to move through you. Allow yourself to express them. And then don't take action against those feelings. It's just a part of the process. You're retraining yourself. You're being with your wounds, your patterns that have resulted in you doing all of these things that you never wanted to in your life. You can create a whole journaling activity and practice to prove to yourself. Write down all the times you said yes and it worked to your benefit, or where it worked against you, and then write even beside that, okay, well, how did I feel in the moment when I was agreeing to this or disagreeing to this? So there's a lot you can do around it, but it is incredibly, incredibly powerful to own your no.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's such great advice. And it just makes me laugh, because I was thinking about all the times where I really seeked validation from something that I knew in myself I had to do. Like when I left my corporate job, I was like, no, I have to do it. I have to take this leap and do it. But instead of just doing it, I try to speak to everyone and convince them for them to tell me that I needed to do that. So instead of just doing it, I wanted everyone to tell me that that's what I should do. But in that process, I had to convince them that it was the right thing for me to do, because their initial thing was to say, no, don't leave. So again, it comes down to that self-trust of doing what's right for you and not actually seeking any answers from outside of yourself, because I think we do tend to do that to try and feel accepted again, or to make sure that no one's going to think we're going out of the ordinary or stepping outside of the box of the conformity of what we were talking about. But it's about knowing your own trust in your life path and going, this is my freaking, this is my freaking life. One day I have to wake up and stop listening to what everybody else is expecting of me. And so much of what you said is just so resonating with me, and it is really about that self-worth, isn't it? It's building upon that self-worth, like you said, though, it doesn't just come overnight.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's a really big piece is building that self-trust. They go hand in hand. And when my marriage ended, there wasn't a buildup. It wasn't planned. I wasn't thinking about divorce. There was an event that happened where my partner crossed a boundary with me that I had promised if that boundary was ever crossed, I would leave. And overnight, I made the decision that this marriage was over.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to trust that and be in that and watch my partner suffer, watch this whole life that I created fall apart and be stepping completely into the unknown. And then I remember, same thing with my corporate job. With my corporate job, there was a longer buildup. I knew eventually I wanted to leave, but I didn't tell anybody that I was considering actually doing it on the date that I was, because I knew that I would get exactly what you got. A whole bunch of people who love us and just want us to be safe and taken care of, being like, don't do it. You're going to regret it. I probably would have heard the same thing about my marriage, right? So I ended up telling everybody these decisions that I made after I made them. My poor parents are like, please, if you decide to join a cult, just talk to us before, okay? I'm like, I won't, because I could see myself joining a commune of sorts one day or something like that, and you guys would probably freak out. I think it's a cult, but yeah, this is where that self-trust came in, when in both scenarios, and moving out here as well. Like, I didn't know what I was going into. I couldn't picture my future anymore. Before, it was so clear where I was headed. That uncertainty is so scary. And having gone through these massive life-changing events and watching myself land on my feet over and over again blows my mind. And just something to add, just so you and the listeners can understand the extent of my fear of being alone. Prior to leaving my marriage, when I had ever thought about my marriage falling apart in some way, or if he had left me, or if he had died or something, I was convinced that I would commit suicide. That was so terrifying to me that I was like, I could never do that. My life would just be horrible. I wouldn't survive it, and I would probably take my own life. That's how big my fear was around it. And to then be pushed into the scenario of facing my biggest fear and coming out on the other side of it more empowered, more connected with myself, like living a more happier and fulfilled life than I ever thought possible. You don't know that in the moment. You don't know it. But when you're listening to your own truth and following through with that, and saying no to the things that are misaligned, even when they're really big things, your life can shift, your relationship can shift with yourself to the most powerful, connected, trusted place. And it's so worth it. So worth it.
Just taking a minute to let that all sink in, because that's a lot. And in that sentence alone, we have to get comfortable with sitting in the unknown. And it's stories like yours and like so many others that allow us and encourage us to know that we can also face some of the darkest moments that we think are our darkest moments in that moment. And from a year or 2 years from whenever, that is an actual blessing that happened, because it's got you to a whole new level of self and growth, stepping into this becoming of, like you said, what you've always been questioning, or kind of putting the volume low in your previous sort of life, let's say, in a pre you that's how I'm seeing it, and sort of describing it in my mind. It's like when we step out into the phases of our life of, okay, you're leaving school, you're going to university or whatever, you're getting into a career, they're all stages of your life. And there's always, for me, definitely, there's always been this voice of going, is this it, is this it, is this it? And what we do is just turn the volume down on that. We're like, shut up, like, not now, like, I'm just getting to this phase with this, like but it's always there. And we need to, I don't want to kind of generalize, but if we turn that volume up and listen to that voice, that's the one, that's the truth, that's you. So wow, this is just a mind-blowing conversation, which I feel like I could keep going. But I am so blessed and grateful that you've shared all of this knowledge with me and the listeners today. And now I just want to give it to you. Where can people connect with you, and what have you got coming up?
Yes, thank you. I'm feeling the power of this conversation, and I'm grateful that we can share it together. Yes, if you'd like to learn more about the work that I do and what's possible for you, you can check out my website, which is mariajuzwin.com, JUZWIN.com. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Maria Juzwin. And the ways in which you can work with me, well, first of all, there's a freebie on my website for connecting with your inner child and garnering the wisdom that resides there. Like, that's where everybody needs to start. So I would invite you to go there. You can download it for free. It's really easy to find. And then I create programs. So a program that I run pretty frequently is called Discovering Your Authentic Self. And what it is, it's a 3-month program where, in a live group format, we go through the steps, the self-reflection, the embodiment practices to connect in with who your truth is and allow her to come forward. A recent woman in the program the iteration that I just ran, like, went off antidepressants from going through this program because she felt like she could finally live and be in her own power. It's incredibly rewarding, the shifts that I see in people. And then also you can work with me one-on-one in a container that I call the Fully Unleashed container, which is powerful 6-month journey into really claiming your worth and creating that life that you're desiring in your truest expression and self. So lots of options, pick and choose whatever feels best for you. And if you're just looking for inspirational content, and you can also just find me on TikTok, even pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, you share some really great stuff. So it all sounds incredible. Get downloading that freebie, definitely. Getting to know your inner child is where it all resides. And that's where your journey began into unraveling that conditioning of dimming yourself, so that you were able to understand where it came from, to unleash. And I love that word, unleash, because that's exactly what it is. Unleash the untamed of who you are. Maria, thank you so, so much for coming today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved it, every minute of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been an
Mm.
honor.